Front row MMA, here we are in Stockholm for Gustafsson vs. Johnson UFC Fight Night, and we're fortunate enough to be joined by Dave Allen, newly promoted Chief Vice President of UFC and responsible for the development of Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
Not Asia, no. It's Europe, Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
See, this is
EMEA.
This is
do it again.
No, because this is where from. Look, you are becoming a recognized face now amongst UFC fans, especially on this side of the pond. We know you've been with the company since 2013, but you have a long history, certainly in sport, and pushing brands, including Nike, Umbro. Where does your passion for, because sport has to be a passion for you, where did that start?
Well, I think, number one, I've been very, very lucky in my career. I've worked for some of the greatest sports brands in the world. I've worked for Adidas, I've worked for Nike for nearly 15 years. And latterly I worked for the Umbro brand, true soccer brand, an English heritage soccer brand. So I've had a great time in working alongside those brands, but it's just come from my own passion of sport. I've always played sport. I've always tried to be involved and around sport. It's one of those crazy things that if there's a sporting event on, I will go. I don't have a favoritism to say, oh, I'm not going to go to a cricket match, or I'm not going to go to a snooker game, or I will go, if there's something on and I'm free, I will try and make myself available. I'll give you a funny story. So last week, I'm down in the London office and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm going, because my family live up in Manchester, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm going, what am I going to do tonight? It's January, I'm not drinking for January, so I'm off, and I'm going, where am I going to go tonight? I can't go to the pub, I'm not drinking. So I went to see West Ham against Everton. Neither of them are my team. I went and had a great time, stood behind the goal with the true fans, and I had an absolutely fantastic time. It was a great match, ended up 2-2, went to extra time in the cup, then it went to 9-8 on penalties. So going to sporting events just gives you that energy itself. You see what the athletes perform like, you see how they perform, not just in their game, but in the training and the dedication that they put to it. And I think for anybody growing up and any young kid, look at what sport is and then transfer that knowledge into your business life as well. And that's what I've been very, very lucky in being able to do. I remember a long time ago when I got promoted to be the general manager of Nike football. One of my friends from Ireland, he picked up the phone to me and he rings me up, and I thought he was going to say congratulations. Poor fool me, it was completely the wrong thing. No, he said, I don't get Nike. Why have they given you this job? And I'm like, whoa, well, thanks for the congratulations. And he went, no, just think about it, he says. So every day of the week, you read about football, you talk about football, you go to football, you watch football on television, and now they're going to pay you? And I went, oh, okay, now I get it. So it was an Irish way of saying congratulations, but it was my passion. And sport is my passion. I've grown up back home in Ireland. I played Gaelic football, I played Gaelic hurling. I absolutely love playing soccer. Playing soccer back in my time, back in Ireland, was a very difficult thing. It was seen as the English game. It was something that came from across the water. And I went to a Christian Brothers school, and playing soccer in the Christian Brothers school was not the thing to do. So I couldn't play football for the school. So all I could do was go and play for a club. Please excuse me, I'm doing what you're doing now. There you go. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Sorry, the phone was ringing in the middle of the interview. It's horrible.
That's not a problem. You were a referee as well, so you put yourself in that's a position where you have to make decisions that affect other people. Was that the start of sort of the business plan? I'm going to make decisions. I'm not afraid to make them.
No, the refereeing came around in a funny sort of a way. I was playing football. And I played at a really good level till I was 18, 19 years of age. And then, like anybody in sport, you get a kind of this tap on the shoulder from a coach to say, you're not going to make it. You really, and your world falls apart when that happens. And so I went off playing football for another year. You kind of drop down a division and I didn't enjoy it. And I thought, how am I going to get back at this? And a friend of mine that lived around the corner was a referee, an older guy, he was a referee. And he said, why not take up refereeing? Have a go at it, see what it's all about. And I actually said, okay, I'll give it a go. So I actually started refereeing schoolboy football, So under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, and start working my way through all that, and really enjoyed it. Loved being on the pitch with great players, being able to watch them, and again it comes back to my love of sport. I couldn't get any closer to it. And then we had the opportunity, I became a League of Ireland referee, which is the semi-professional league back home in Ireland. I was a League of Ireland referee, and then I was promoted to the FIFA panel, and travelled all around Europe, doing linesman, refereeing, you know, and we had a great time. But I couldn't continue to do that at that level and continue in business at the same time. So I had to stop. Refereeing in those days was not going to pay the mortgage. So I had to stop and I had to give it up, which I hated doing. But I still do some refereeing. I refereed my son's game last weekend back home in Manchester. So the under 10s, we hadn't got a referee, no referee turned up, and you got 22 kids standing there going, we're not going to have a game. And I'm like, I'll referee. So it was fantastic. And again, that's my involvement in sport. I just love being around sport and seeing the energy and the passion. And when you take it to the UFC, we're at a different level. You know, I've been working with some of the greatest athletes in the world in my career. I've worked with some of the greatest footballers, Ronaldo, worked alongside some of the greatest basketball players in Jordan. You come to the UFC and you see the dedication, you see the skill, you see the empowerment that those athletes have. It is something that I have never experienced before in my life. These guys are on a different level. And I know, because I've got footballers calling us up saying, how can I go and train with a UFC athlete? They don't want to fight. No. They want to be as fit. Yeah. They want to train in the same way because they understand that these guys are actually on another level to any other sport around the world.
With the passion for MMA, and was it always there, or was it a sport that you had to, you know, were you aware of the UFC long before 2013 when you joined, and what were your thoughts on it as a sport then? Because obviously in Europe, I think it's taken a little longer for the UFC to pick up, as it has in the States, which is its home. But what was your first impressions of the sport? Were you hooked immediately, or did it take a little time?
My first impressions of the sport were back in 2013. I went to the event in Manchester, and that was my first time ever to a UFC event. And I walked out of there going, there's something happening here. This is something that's different. This is something that, if you think back to Phil Knight in the Just Do It book, is quoted of saying, you know, you've made some of the greatest running shoes in the world, you've made greatest apparel, you've built this business to, you know, enormous size. What would you like to do next, Phil? And Phil said, I'd love to invent the next sport. And I think that's what we've got now. This is the opportunity. You know, MMA, UFC is 13 years old. We're a teenager. We're only starting out in life, and we've got masses of opportunity for us. You know, we talked about, we stuttered through it, EMEA, Europe, Middle East and Africa. Europe, Middle East and Africa is 59 countries in Europe, 54 countries in Africa, 14 countries in the Middle East, and then you throw Russia on top. There's 129 countries in this region, and last year we've been to 5. Yeah. So we're really only starting. The opportunity, actually, the opportunities are there, but we have more opportunities than we have resources to get after at this point in time. So I think I'm starting out like a teenager in this new business, and that's what's given me the energy. We've got a great team of people around us here in the European region, and great support from the Vegas office that's helping us just make new inroads into all these markets. And like we announced today, we're 2 new markets that we're going into. We're going into Krakow on the 11th of April, then we'll come back and we go to Berlin, and then we're going to go to Glasgow. I mean, how amazing is that going to be? 2 brand new markets. We're going back to a market that we hadn't been in for a long time in Berlin, and we're going straight back again this year. And now we're here in Sweden on the 2nd biggest event that's ever going to be held in the world, the biggest event that's ever going to be held in Europe. And actually, if you just take out the gate attendance, this event could actually be the biggest UFC event ever, because this will be shown in 149 countries around the world. There's the potential of 1 billion households around the world watching in on Saturday night to see Alex Gustafsson fighting Anthony Johnson. And what a fantastic night it's going to be. The whole of the city of Sweden is behind it. The whole of the city of Stockholm, the whole of Sweden's behind it. But it's not just Sweden. We were talking with our ticket providers the other day. We've had people purchase tickets from 44 different countries around the world Sweden's number one, of course, we're in the home market, but the spread of where these people are coming from, the US is number 2, UK is number 3, then we go to Finland, it's coming in, and then and all the other Scandinavian countries, but we got people travelling in from Brazil, they're coming in from Japan, they're coming up from South Africa, they're coming from everywhere to watch this fight. Yeah. And it's not just Alex against Anthony, it's an absolutely amazing card of fights that's going to happen on the night. It's, you put Musasi against Henderson, oh my God, oh my God, what's that going to be all about? Then you've got, think about Bader and Davies, and we have 4 of the top 7 light heavyweights fighting on the card. So I hope nobody ever asks me the question about European cards again and says, "Oh, hey, Dave, you don't get great cards in Europe." Hey, tell me another one.
For those people who don't understand sort of what goes on behind the scenes, your job may seem to them to be the easiest thing in the world. You're trying to raise the brand, the profile of a brand that every MMA fan knows. What are some of the hurdles or the things that you can talk about that are barriers to certain countries, and what are the challenges of the job? Because again, on paper it could seem like the easiest job. You're promoting the UFC, how hard can that be? But there must be things that you have to overcome.
Yeah, I think, well, the first one is within the UFC and within our own organisation, you take a scale of an event like this. So we've actually got 500 people working here on the arena, building this event out. It is enormous in its own size. To put it into context, people, it's all about the detail, and we've got a great team of people who look after the detail. I'll give you one detail as a snippet of information. So the screens that we put up in an arena are absolutely great. There's no such thing as restricted view when you go to a UFC event. So all the screens that are up and in the ring. Then you throw the big Jumbotron that we've got. This is the biggest Jumbotron that's ever been built when you go into the arena on Saturday night to see. But the fact is, just for those screens and just for that Jumbotron, we've used 150 kilometres of cable. Right? So you think, oh yeah, there's a glamorous job, the UFC could... No, there's a lot of hard work goes on behind it. Second part of the question would be, well, what's the challenge for us? I think what this event has done, especially here in Sweden and across the rest of Europe, is it's brought it into the mainstream. It's brought people to notice what's going on. We have journalists from all parts of the world covering the event. We have broadcasters coming in from all parts of the world. You take it that this event is going to be showing live on Fox TV back in the US. So we've got a European event that's being held at, some people have said, in the middle of the night. It's not the middle of the night, it's a late night out in Stockholm. Everybody goes out at 10 o'clock at night in Stockholm and they party till 4 in the morning. It's the same. So it's a great event being put on. So I think what that's done is that's brought us into mainstream. But it's brought us into mainstream in a market where there's governance around the sport. With the Swedish Mixed Martial Arts Federation, they've done a great job working with the government to put all that governance and legislation around it. What we need to do in a number of other markets is that same job. And I use France as the example. Wonderful. France is the place where, it's not that we're banned in France, no. It's just not allowed. But I put that down to education. I think a lot of people have to really understand what the sport is all about. They have to come and see it and explore it for themselves, like I did when I went to that event in Manchester. Come and see what it's all. Come and see the athletes. Come and see the safety elements. Come and see the medicals that we do and everything that we put around it. These are finely tuned athletes. 80% of our athletes on our roster, 80% of the athletes on our roster have a college degree. So these are not just crazy people just jumping into an octagon and going to fight one another. These are sensible guys and girls who've made a career decision that this is the sport for them. And we were at a great project the other night in Project Suburb here in the town, where it takes in kids who've come from war-torn countries, refugees from Afghanistan, from Somalia, from Iran, all different parts of the world, who've got no hope. They've got no hope. And what they're doing is they're teaching them through the values of martial arts. They're teaching the values, the ethos, the discipline, everything that's around it. And to see those guys' eyes open up when we brought the 6 guest fighters into the gym the other night, that to me is what education is about, and that's something that we have to do in France. But I think the other side of things, for whether it's France or whether it's Germany, which, you know, we've got a TV thing going on, is people and consumers have to have choice. I'm a lucky guy. When I look at those guys coming from Somalia and coming from Afghanistan, I've got choice. I can pick and choose what I want to do. I can pick and choose what channel I want to watch on television. I can press a button. And I think what we need to do, and with the help of whether it's France or Germany, is give the consumer that opportunity to choose. Don't choose for them. Allow the consumer to choose.
When you speak about the UFC, you light up a little bit. You're always smiling. It is like talking to a fan. So I'm going to ask you a fan question before we go back to how pleased are you with the rise, especially of European MMA? But let's be honest, the Irish are leading the way a little bit with guys like Paddy Houlihan, Conor McGregor, Cathal Pendred. You could count Gunny Nelson if you know, and then you've got Patrick Duffy. You've got, I mean, the Irish. The Irish are really pushing, and it seems the rise of Irish MMA.
Yeah, I was going to correct him for that.
What have I said?
Joseph.
Did I say Patrick again? Joseph, you can smack me next time I see you.
I'll bring you to him, Joseph. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and he will smack me. Patrick, but, you know, the Irishman in you. How proud, because I don't think it's any, certainly I believe the rise of Irish MMA has matched the rise of the European and made it even more mainstream with guys like Conor taking the lead. The Irishman in you, how proud are you of that?
Oh, very proud of what the Irish guys have achieved, and you know, it's a wonderful thing to say it's an overnight success. It's not an overnight success. These guys have been working at it for a long, long time, and I think what has happened is they've now come into the UFC. So you've got the strength of the UFC alongside the strength of what they are as artists and as athletes, and then you've got, as Conor calls it, the perfect storm, and that's what's drawing everything around. But I don't believe it's just the Irish guys. No. We're standing here in Sweden. We got 3 Swedes on the card on Saturday night. We had 6 Swedes on the card the last time we were here in October. Yep. You know, as we go into Russia, we're going to have a lot of not into Russia. As we go into Poland, we're going to have a great card full of Polish fighters. We've got some great Russians. We've just signed a TV deal in Russia with the state broadcaster, which brings the sport to 55 million people in that country. What that'll do is there'll be another Conor McGregor sitting in a crowd going, you know what, that's for me. And so, you know, in 5, 6, 7 years time, that'll help grow the sport. You know, that's where these new athletes will come from. So hopefully we can do that in Russia, hopefully we can do it in Poland, hopefully we can do it in Sweden, and in many, many more markets. I think the UK market's a bit more mature. Yeah. So we got some great fighters that have come out of that in the growth of UFC in Europe. But I think it creates more opportunity as we go into Glasgow, as we go into Krakow, and we start breaking new markets as well. And we start doing TV deals in new markets like we have done in Russia. And we're going to announce a couple of more TV deals in the next week into totally new markets that we've never been in before.
I want to talk Africa for a moment, because South Africa particularly, I think most people, is sort of the center of the mixed martial arts in that country, in that continent as far as we know, and they have EFC, and certainly in the past the sort of the sense is EFC are a block to the UFC coming to South Africa. Is that just people assuming on social media and making things up, or is that a potential roadblock to breaking into South Africa?
No, we have a great relationship with the guys down there in the EFC. They run a super operation. It's actually a mirror of our operation in its own way, and that's them looking at us saying that is the top model, and that's what we want to try and be. I think for us in Europe at this moment in time, and I've said it many, many times, we have more opportunity than we have resources. So South Africa at this moment in time is not on my map. It's definitely somewhere we want to go. It's definitely somewhere we want to be. We know, and we've got some great fighters down there, and we've got a couple of South Africans who are in the UFC as well. So it's a great market. And you know, I worked South Africa for a long time leading into the World Cup when I was in the football role at Nike. It's a fantastic sporting culture. And so for us to go there has to be there on the plan. It's not on this year's plan. Could it be on 2016's plan? Yeah, that's a possibility.
What's the end game for the UFC within? Well, I guess it's not just within Europe, but how much bigger can this machine, can this monster become? Because again, to the outsider, to the fan, it just seems unstoppable. It's a juggernaut of a company. It's been around, and you said since 2000, 13 years, but some of us remember 1993 November. That was the birth of the sport in this country that we know. What's the end game? Does Dana and do you guys sit around and go, this is where we want? Do you set sort of a year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we go, like any business, we go through a business planning process, and we got a 3-year plan, and we got a 5-year vision of what we want to do, and that becomes a rolling plan. Yeah. So as you knock off 1 year, you place it out the other. So from a business perspective, we've got the plans in place. But what I would say to you is that in some markets, coming into the education thing again, in some markets we're not known. In other markets, we're mainstream. So there's different levels of maturity for the company. But what I do know is that everywhere in the world, no matter where you go, there is some form of combat sport. And so that creates a great opportunity for the UFC. There is only one other sport that you can say that about, and that's football, soccer. Yeah. And I think, cricket, yeah, it's good in some countries, but it's not in others. Rugby, you can say the same. There are only 2 truly global sports, and I think that's our opportunity. And I've said it to you, we're in 129 countries here, and we've been to 5. So you work it out. How far could we go? There is no end game. And we said it earlier in the interview, I feel we're like a teenager. We're 13 years of age, and if you remember all that far back to when you were 13, yeah, a long time, and me, a long time ago, you're going to make mistakes along the way, you're going to find out new things, and you're going to start growing up. And that's what we're doing at the moment. We're making a couple of mistakes. Everything's not pretty, that's okay. But if we're not trying things, that's when it's a problem. Try things, make a mistake, learn from it, move on. And we have so many more years to go. It won't end. I'm excited by it.
From a personal point of view, because again, I'm by no means aging this job, but there's going to come a point where perhaps you want to. What do you want to accomplish within the UFC? But before you get the gold watch, or before you before you get to sort of come to the events and thoroughly enjoy them just by sitting a bit. What do you want to achieve? What's Dave Allen's legacy for the UFC going to be?
Well, I don't think it'll be just my legacy. That's the first thing. I think what it'll be the legacy of the team that we have in EMEA. And we, this time last year we had 4 people working in the London office. This year we have 16 people working in the London office. So we've built an amazing team of people out there doing all different elements, whether it's PR and communications, whether it's the digital, whether it's our broadcast, whether it's sponsorship. We've built a beautiful model there, and those people. So the legacy will be their legacy. But we're at the beginning. These guys know we're at the beginning of something really, really special. I would love, when I get my pipe and slippers, as you put it, when I get my pipe and slippers together and I sit back and I kind of go, right, that's the end of it, I'd like to be able to look back and say, I was there at the beginning. And it's like this event this weekend. All of us who are here, we are all going to be able to say, we were there when Alex Gustafsson and Anthony Johnson walked into the octagon on that Saturday night. And it's moments like that. Moments like Conor winning in Dublin, moments like Nick Hein winning in Berlin for Germany. It's moments like that. When we saw Ramzi Nijam win down in Abu Dhabi, it's moments like that that you're able to say, I was there. That'll be the legacy. I was there.
Dave, before we let you go, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It's been absolutely brilliant. I always ask everybody I interview, is there anybody that you'd like to say thank you to, anybody you'd like to shout out who have helped you on this journey, supported you on your way, or continue to do so?
Okay, well, I think the list could be very, very long. So that's the first one. But my good partner is Gary Cook. Myself and Gary have worked together for an awful lot of years, and it was him that phoned me up about this opportunity and at the UFC. So a shout out to Gary. But I think the bigger shout out for me to thank is all the fans. They stick with us through and through. I've never come across fans that are so engaged, so knowledgeable about everything that they do. So keep supporting us, guys, because we love you. We absolutely love our fans.
David Allen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Mr. Duffy, I am ever so sorry, but at least I didn't refer to you as the last man to beat Conor McGregor.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for your time.